Welcome to Daily News in AI Agents, the place to get a quick roundup of the most exciting developments in AI agents every day. Subscribe to our LinkedIn newsletter today in the link below to stay activated.
Hey everyone, and welcome back to the Deep Dive. Today we're tackling AI head-on, and trust me, it's a wild ride.
It is. It really is.
We've got a ton to unpack, from articles and podcasts, even a survey.
Oh, wow.
To help you get a handle on all the latest in AI. What's making waves, who's calling the shots, and where things could go sideways, all the good stuff.
Yeah. And I think what jumps out at me right off the bat is this disconnect between all the excitement around AI and whether companies are actually ready to jump in. There's a ton of hype, but are businesses really prepared for what it takes to actually integrate AI?
That's such a good point. And we have this Capital One survey that found 87% of business leaders think their data is all set for AI.
Wow.
But then 70% of their tech teams say they're drowning in data issues.
Oh, wow.
It's like everybody's waiting for someone else to figure out the data mess before they can even think about using AI.
Exactly, yeah. And that's where Pedro Alza's take in the Emerge podcast gets really interesting. He makes this point that AI has to become way more user-friendly if businesses are going to use it effectively.
Right.
What do you think about the roadblocks that need to be cleared for AI to be adopted more widely?
Well, you think about things like data silos, the lack of technical expertise, or even just straight up fear of change. Those are all very real hurdles.
Totally. Absolutely. You nailed it. And until those get addressed, AI might be out of reach for a lot of businesses.
Yeah.
Now, let's say we clear those data hurdles. Does that mean we're home free?
I wish. But this Unite AI article brings up this idea of an AI monopoly.
Right.
And it makes me wonder, what happens when just a handful of giants control most of the data that fuels AI?
That is the question, isn't it?
Yeah.
This article makes the point that a few big names, like Google, Amazon, Microsoft, they're sitting on mountains of data. They're training these huge AI models.
Right.
And that gives them massive influence, not just on the tech itself, but on where innovation goes from here.
So what does that mean, really? Does it stifle competition? Could it limit the different viewpoints that go into developing AI?
Those are exactly the right questions. This concentration of power brings up worries about fairness, about access, and about the potential for bias to creep in.
Right, and it makes you wonder if there's a way to get more diverse voices involved in shaping the AI landscape. Speaking of large models, MarkTech Post mentioned this DeepSeek-V3 model, made by a smaller company that actually created a model with a whopping 671 billion parameters.
Wow.
What do you think that signals about the AI landscape?
That's a really interesting example because it shows that even with limited resources, companies can still build powerful AI models. It kind of challenges the assumption that only the tech giants with all the data can drive innovation.
Okay, so that's encouraging. It sounds like the playing field might not be completely tilted towards those giants after all.
Exactly.
Do you think open source initiatives could be one way to break down those barriers even further?
I think open source is a really powerful tool in making AI more accessible.
Right.
By sharing knowledge and resources, we can empower a wider range of players to contribute.
Absolutely. Okay, let's switch gears for a second and talk about OpenAI, the folks behind ChatGPT.
Sure.
They're moving from nonprofit to for-profit, and that has stirred up a lot of controversy. Even Elon Musk is chiming in with criticism. I'm curious to hear your take on this move and what it might mean for the future of AI development.
Yeah, this is a really complicated issue with major implications. So according to their statement on TechCrunch, OpenAI says this shift is necessary to get the resources they need to reach their goals.
Okay.
Particularly with AGI, artificial general intelligence.
Yeah.
Basically creating AI that's on par with human intelligence. They're arguing that this for-profit structure gives them the flexibility and funding they need to make it happen.
So they're saying they want to benefit humanity through AGI, but they need to be a for-profit to do it.
Right.
What are some of the concerns people have with this move?
Well, one of the main concerns is the potential for a conflict of interest.
Right.
Critics, like the nonprofit in Code, who were also featured on TechCrunch, worry that a for-profit model could put profits ahead of ethical considerations and potentially widen the gap between those who benefit from AI and those who get left behind.
Right, that's a valid concern. It makes you question whether our company can truly serve the greater good while chasing profits.
It does.
What do you think? Can those two goals coexist?
It's a tough question with no easy answers.
Yeah.
I do think it's crucial to have these open discussions about the potential fallout from OpenAI's transition, though.
Yeah.
It highlights the need for a nuanced approach to AI development, one that takes into account the ethical and social and economic impacts.
It seems like there's no clear-cut answer right now, but it's something to keep in mind as AI keeps evolving. Now, with all this talk about AGI, powerful models, for-profit versus non-profit, it brings us to a fundamental question. How do we make sure AI is developed responsibly, especially as it gets more advanced and potentially surpasses our own understanding?
This is where Darren McKee's insights on the Data Skeptic podcast become so relevant. He really stresses that we need to be aware of those unintended consequences, even if they're not as dramatic as robots taking over. He even talks about how AI could be used for harmful purposes, which is a scary thought. So how do we build in safeguards to make sure it's developed and used ethically, especially as it gets more complex and autonomous?
It almost feels like we're trying to play catch-up, anticipating risks from tech that's evolving so quickly.
It is a fast-moving target.
Do you think that AI monopoly we talked about earlier makes these risks even worse? If a few companies control most of the data and the algorithms, does that make ethical oversight more difficult?
It's definitely a point worth considering.
Yeah.
Having so much power concentrated in the hands of a few definitely raises red flags about transparency and accountability. It underscores how important it is to have strong ethical frameworks and regulations to guide development and use.
This is getting pretty heavy, but before we get too lost in the potential risks, I want to bring it back to the human element.
Right.
Because even with all these advanced algorithms, it really comes down to the people building and using them.
You're absolutely right, and this is where Peter Day's insights on the Emerge podcast about building high-performing AI teams are so valuable.
Right.
He says it's not just about the technical skills.
Yeah.
It's about finding the right seats on the bus. What do you think he means by that?
To me, it sounds like he's saying it's all about matching people's skills and their personalities to the specific roles needed on an AI project. It's about building a team that can work together smoothly, communicate clearly, and handle all the complexities of AI development.
Exactly. Building those successful teams involves understanding team dynamics, fostering collaboration, and making sure everyone's working towards the same vision. It's about an environment where diverse viewpoints are valued and where ethical considerations are baked into the whole development process.
That's a great point. So even if you're not an AI expert, just understanding how teams work is critical for anyone involved in AI projects.
Absolutely.
And it's a reminder that building AI responsibly isn't just about the tech itself. It's about a whole system approach that includes the human element, the ethical implications, and the impact on society as a whole.
Couldn't agree more.
Now, I know we've covered a lot of ground just in this first part of our deep dive.
We have.
But I think it's important to zoom out for a second and appreciate some of the more awe-inspiring things AI can do.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because amidst all the concerns and complexities, there's a sense of wonder about what this tech can achieve.
Definitely.
For example, new scientists mentioned these AI-powered avatars that can actually gesture naturally while they're speaking.
Oh, wow.
Imagine a world where virtual meetings feel as real and engaging as face-to-face conversations.
Yeah, it's amazing.
And speaking of the future becoming reality, new scientists also talked about supersonic flight making a comeback in 2025.
Oh, wow.
Now, that's not directly AI related,
right? But it shows how things that were once science fiction are becoming our present.
That's a great point.
It really highlights the speed of advancement and the potential for innovation to completely reshape our world.
Absolutely.
It's a time of immense opportunity, but also of great responsibility. Now, before we wrap up this first part, I want to leave you with a question to think about as we continue exploring. If AI could solve any problem in your life, what would it be? And what are the potential downsides of that solution?
Wow, that's a fantastic question. It forces you to look beyond the immediate uses of AI and think about its wider impact on our lives, our values, and what we want for the future.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's a good reminder that AI is more than just a tool. It reflects our own ingenuity and our desire to build a better world.
Yes.
So let's keep exploring.
Yes.
Keep asking questions.
Absolutely.
And keep pushing the boundaries of what's possible.
Beautifully said. I'm really looking forward to continuing this dive and seeing where it takes us next.
Me too. You know that question about AI solving problems in our lives.
Yeah.
It really brings home how AI is getting more and more woven into our everyday lives.
It's true. It's not just some far-off idea anymore. It's already having an impact on so many things. But even with all this progress, it feels like there's still this gap between what AI can do and whether everyone can actually use it.
Absolutely. And Pedro Alves in the Emerge podcast, he brings up this really good point about the need for a more intuitive, more user-friendly interface for AI. Like, it's one thing to have powerful algorithms,
Right.
but if they're buried under a ton of technical stuff, they won't be accessible to the average person.
It's like having this amazing tool but no clue how to use it.
Exactly.
What do you think needs to change to make AI more accessible?
I think it's got to be a combo of things, like simplifying the tech itself and providing better education and training. Developers are always working on tools and platforms that make it easier to build and use AI. But alongside that, we need to teach people how AI works, what it can do, and also where it falls short.
It sounds like a two-pronged approach.
Right.
Making the tech easier to use while also giving people the knowledge to use it well.
Exactly.
What do you think about the role of education in helping people understand AI better?
Education is huge. It's not just about training data scientists and engineers.
Yay.
It's about giving everyone a basic understanding of AI so they can make smart choices about how it's used in their lives.
Makes sense. We got to demystify AI and empower people to be part of the conversation about how it's developed and what impact it has. Okay, changing gears a bit.
Okay.
We talked before about big data and how it seems like a few companies have a monopoly on it.
Right.
Is there any chance for smaller players to break into that space?
That's a great question. And the MarkTech Post article about DeepSeek-V3 actually gives me some hope.
Okay.
It highlights the work of a company that's not one of those giant tech companies,
Yeah.
showing that with the right approach and resources, it is possible to develop strong AI models even without tons of data.
So it's not a totally lost cause. There's still room for competition and new ideas.
Absolutely. And the open source community, I think they play a big role in leveling the playing field. By sharing tools and data and knowledge openly, we can help smaller companies, researchers, even individuals to contribute.
That's great to hear. It suggests that the future of AI isn't just dictated by these big corporations. There's room for a wider range of voices to shape how it develops.
Exactly. It really shows the importance of working together, sharing what we know, and creating an AI world where more people can participate.
Speaking of inclusivity and ethical considerations,
Yeah.
let's circle back to OpenAI, going from nonprofit to for-profit. This move has really brought up questions about balancing making money with their goal of benefiting humanity.
It has.
What are your thoughts on this whole issue? It's pretty complicated.
It is a tough one. OpenAI is saying that this change is necessary to get the resources they need for AGI development, but people are worried that the focus on profit will overshadow ethical concerns.
So how do we handle this tension between profit and purpose? Can a company be financially successful and still be ethically responsible when it comes to AI?
I think it's an ongoing conversation, a constant balancing act.
Yeah.
It requires transparency, accountability, and a willingness to talk openly about what could happen as AI develops.
Transparency and accountability keep coming up as key themes in this discussion about responsible AI. Do you think there are specific things we can do or frameworks we can put in place to make those values stronger within the industry?
Absolutely. Having solid ethical guidelines, independent oversight, and ways for the public to weigh in, those are all critical pieces.
So it's not just about making AI smarter, it's about building in safeguards to make sure it aligns with our values and is used for good.
Exactly.
But what about the individual's role in all this? We've talked about corporations, researchers, policymakers, but what about the average person? How can they help shape the future of AI?
That's a really good question. I think education and awareness are key. The more people understand about AI, its potential, and its risks, the better prepared they'll be to have those informed discussions about its development and how it's used.
So it's about empowering individuals to be active participants, not just passive consumers of the tech.
Exactly.
What are some ways people can learn more about AI, especially if they don't have a tech background?
There's a lot of great stuff out there. Online courses, podcasts, articles that are written for everyone to understand.
Right.
It's about finding resources that explain things clearly and simply.
Sounds like there's plenty of info out there for anyone who wants to learn.
Definitely.
And maybe even more importantly, having open conversations with friends and family and colleagues about what AI means for all of us.
Couldn't agree more. Those conversations are crucial for raising awareness, encouraging people to think critically, and ultimately shaping AI in a way that benefits everyone.
It's a shared responsibility, not something we just leave to the experts.
Right.
Now, before we dive back into the complexities of I want to shift gears a bit and talk about some of the truly mind-blowing ways AI is being used today.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah.
It's important to take a step back and appreciate the incredible things that are happening.
For example, the New Scientist article mentioned these AI-powered avatars that can gesture naturally while they're speaking.
Yeah.
Imagine going to virtual meetings where the avatars are so lifelike, it's like you're all in the same room.
Wow, that's amazing.
And speaking of those leaps in tech, New Scientist also highlighted the return of supersonic flight in 2025.
Oh, wow.
Not directly AI,
Right.
but it shows how innovation can turn what seemed impossible into reality.
It's a real testament to human ingenuity, our constant drive to push forward. It makes you wonder, what else might AI make possible that we can't even imagine yet?
It's a pretty exciting time to be alive, that's for sure. But with all this focus on the future, let's bring it back to the present for a minute.
Okay.
What are some of the challenges that AI is already helping us solve right now?
That's a great question. It's easy to get lost in all the possibilities of the future, but AI is making a real difference in many areas already.
Like in healthcare, AI is being used to diagnose diseases earlier, tailor treatments to individuals, even assist in surgeries. It's leading to better outcomes for patients around the world. It's really changing how we approach healthcare, and it's saving lives.
Absolutely. AI is playing a crucial role in tackling some of our biggest healthcare challenges, from detecting diseases early to discovering and developing new drugs.
Yeah.
And it's not just healthcare, it's being used in tons of fields, from education to finance to protecting the environment,
Right.
helping us find creative solutions to tough problems.
It's incredible to see how it's being used to address real-world issues.
Yeah.
But like any powerful tool,
Yeah.
we got to be aware of the risks and unintended consequences. We talked before about AI potentially surpassing our understanding.
Right.
Now, I'm curious about your thoughts on the more immediate risks. Like, what about the potential for AI to make existing biases and inequalities in society even worse?
That is a crucial point. You see, AI systems learn from data, and if that data reflects biases we already have, the algorithms will just keep those biases going and maybe even make them stronger.
Yeah.
This could lead to unfair or discriminatory outcomes, especially in things like hiring, lending, even in the justice system.
So it's not enough to just build smart AI. We also have to make sure it's fair, equitable, and reflects our values.
Exactly. We need to be really aware of how AI could perpetuate harmful biases and take steps to prevent that from happening.
That raises the question, what can we do to address these biases and make sure AI is used to benefit everyone, not just a select few?
I think it takes a multifaceted approach. It starts with recognizing that bias exists
Right.
and being aware of how it can sneak into AI systems.
Right.
We have to carefully choose and check the data that's used to train these systems, making sure it's representative and doesn't have harmful biases built in.
So diversity in data and making sure the data is high quality, those are super important. What about the role of regulations and oversight? Do we need stricter rules to guide how AI systems are developed and used?
Regulation is definitely a key part of responsible AI. We need clear rules and standards to make sure AI is used ethically
Yeah.
and that there are ways to hold people accountable if things go wrong.
Sounds like it's a tough balancing act.
It is.
Encouraging innovation while also making sure it's developed responsibly. We want AI that benefits society, but we also need safeguards in place to minimize the risks.
Exactly. It requires researchers, policymakers, industry leaders, and the public to work together to develop ethical frameworks and regulations that can keep up with how fast this tech is changing.
It's a complex landscape, but having these conversations is so important for shaping AI in a way that aligns with our values. Now, before we wrap up this part of our deep dive, I want to leave our listeners with something to think about. If you could use AI to design your perfect world, what would it look like? What problems would you solve? What opportunities would you create?
That's a beautiful question. It really makes us use our imaginations and think about AI's power to change things for the better. And as we continue, I hope our listeners will hold on to that sense of wonder and what's possible.
It's a reminder that even with valid concerns and potential risks, AI holds this incredible promise of a better future. So let's explore that potential with both curiosity and a sense of responsibility.
It really makes you think, what would an AI-designed world even look like? It's a challenge to use our imagination and think about how we can use this tech to make things better.
Absolutely. It's easy to get caught up in all the technical stuff, but at the end of the day, it's about how AI can improve people's lives. We talked about its potential in healthcare, but where else do you see it making a real difference today?
Well, take education, for example. AI is being used to create personalized learning experiences, tailoring the content to each student's needs and how they learn best. Imagine every student having a custom learning path that helps them reach their full potential.
That would be huge for education. It could really change things up, address some of the shortcomings of traditional classrooms, and make learning more engaging and effective.
Exactly. And it's not just about personalizing learning. AI can also take over those administrative tasks for teachers, freeing up more of their time to actually interact with students and give them that one-on-one support.
That's fantastic. So AI has the potential to empower both teachers and students, creating a much more dynamic and effective learning environment. What other sectors do you see AI transforming in a similar way?
Oh, absolutely. Finance is a great example. AI is being used to spot fraudulent transactions, assess credit risk, and provide personalized financial advice. It's helping make financial systems safer and more efficient, giving people more control over their money.
That's incredible. AI seems to be making its way into just about every industry, from healthcare to education to finance. But with all this progress, we can't ignore the potential risks. We talked about addressing bias in AI systems. Are there any other pitfalls we should be watching out for?
One of the biggest concerns is definitely job displacement. As AI gets more advanced, there's a chance it could automate tasks that humans currently do, which could lead to job losses in some areas.
That's a valid concern. It's critical to anticipate those potential impacts and figure out ways to help people adapt and learn new skills so they can succeed in an AI-driven world. What are your thoughts on how we can prepare for those changes in the job market?
I think it requires a multi-pronged approach. We need to invest in education and training programs that teach people the skills they need for the jobs of the future.
Right.
We also need to encourage lifelong learning, where people are constantly adapting and picking up new skills throughout their careers.
So it's not just about learning one specific skill, it's about developing that mindset of being adaptable and always learning.
Exactly. And it's not just about getting ready for the future. It's about making sure the benefits of AI are shared fairly, that everyone has the opportunity to be a part of this technological revolution.
That brings us back to the importance of ethics and responsible AI development.
Right.
It's about making sure AI is used to empower people, not replace them, and that it contributes to a more just and inclusive society.
Well said. At the end of the day, the future of AI isn't set in stone. It's something we're actively shaping with every decision we make, every algorithm we create, and every conversation we have about it.
That's a powerful reminder that we all have a role to play in shaping this technology and guiding it towards a future that benefits everyone.
Absolutely. And that's why these deep dives are so important. By exploring these complicated issues, having thoughtful discussions, and considering different perspectives, we can work together to overcome the challenges and make the most of AI's incredible potential.
It's been a really insightful journey, exploring the world of AI, from its amazing applications to the potential pitfalls. As we wrap up, I want to leave our listeners with a sense of both optimism and responsibility. Optimism for all the amazing things AI is making possible, and responsibility to make sure it's used ethically for the good of everyone.
I couldn't have said it better myself. The future of AI is in our hands. Let's make sure we shape it wisely.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the world of AI. Until next time, keep exploring, keep asking questions, and keep imagining the possibilities.